The mind repeats illusions until they feel real. The mind has a peculiar trick. It repeats something again and again until the repetition itself becomes the evidence. Not truth, not understanding, just repetition. A child is told, you must succeed, you must make your parents proud. Money means security, marriage means happiness, you must find purpose. The child hears it once, then again, then again. Years pass. One day the child is now an adult, and he suddenly believes these things are his own thoughts. But they were never his thoughts, they were repeated suggestions. The mind operates on familiarity. What is familiar begins to feel true, not because it is true, because it has been replayed thousands of times. Advertising works this way, religion works this way, politics works this way, social identity works this way. Repeat something long enough, and the mind stops questioning it. Take a simple example. If every day you hear, love completes you, eventually you will feel incomplete when you are alone. But the feeling did not arise from truth, it arose from psychological conditioning. The mind does not distinguish between what is real, what is repeated. To the mind, repetition becomes reality. This is why most humans are not living life, they are living accumulated echoes. Echoes from parents, teachers, movies, culture, friends, religion, social media. None of it examined, all of it believed. Truth has a strange property. It does not need repetition. When something is seen clearly, even once, it stays. Illusion requires constant reinforcement, like a fragile lie that must be protected. So when it is said, the mind repeats illusions until they feel real, it means you are not struggling with reality. You are struggling with stories that were repeated so often that they now feel like reality. And the moment you see this clearly, the illusion begins to lose its grip. Not because you fought it, but because you finally saw it. Let's slow this down and look at it carefully. The idea enters quietly. A child grows up hearing subtle messages everywhere. Movies say, you are nothing without love. Songs say, I cannot live without you. Stories end with, they lived happily even after. Friends say, bro, you need a girlfriend. Family asks, when will you settle down? No one sits you down and explains it logically, but the message seeps in. Love completes you, not once, thousands of times. Repetition becomes identity. After years of exposure, something strange happens. The mind does not remember where the idea came from. It simply starts feeling like, this is my desire. But look closely. Was it truly yours? Or was it installed, like software quietly installed in the background? The illusion of incompleteness. Now imagine you are sitting alone in your room. Nothing is wrong. You are healthy. You can breathe. You can think. Life is functioning. But suddenly a feeling appears. Something is missing. Where did that feeling come from? Not from reality. Reality is simply you sitting in a room. The feeling came from the idea that you are incomplete without someone else. The mind manufactures suffering. Once the belief is installed, the mind begins to behave like this. You see couples, you feel lacking. You see romantic movies, you feel empty. You see weddings, you feel behind in life. But nothing actually happened to you. You simply compared your life to an illusion. The trap deepens. Now the mind starts chasing something it believes will complete it. You enter relationships not out of clarity but out of psychological hunger. And hunger is dangerous because when you are hungry, you don't see clearly. You grab anything, and when that person inevitably fails to complete you, you feel betrayed. The hidden truth: no human being can complete another human being. Why? Because the sense of incompleteness was never real to begin with. It was created by a thought repeated over years. What real love might actually look like. If a person does not feel incomplete, then love becomes something very different. Not dependency, loneliness relief, emotional filling, but something quieter. Two people sharing life, not trying to fix each other. The key insight: most people believe, I feel incomplete, therefore I must find someone. But the deeper question is, who told you that you were incomplete in the first place? If you trace that question honestly, you will often find culture, movies, songs, and society sitting behind it, not truth. A very deep observation. The mind rarely asks, is this belief true? It only asks, how do I fulfill this belief? And that single mistake can shape an entire life. Most people assume that the mind wants peace. It does not. It wants movement. The mind survives on problems. Without problems, the mind has very little to do. The feeling of incompleteness is the perfect fuel for the mind. If you feel incomplete, then suddenly life has a direction. I must find love. I must earn more money. I must become successful. I must improve myself. I must become someone. Notice what happens. The moment incompleteness appears, the mind now has a mission. If one day you woke up and truly felt, I'm not lacking anything, something strange would happen. Most of the mind's machinery would shut down. The constant planning, the comparing, the chasing, the fantasizing, all of it would lose its fuel. But the mind is not comfortable with stillness. Stillness feels like death to the psychological self. So it quietly recreates the feeling of lack. Not consciously, automatically. Look carefully at how humans live. A person gets the relationship they wanted. For a while, there is excitement. Soon the mind whispers, something is missing. Then comes the next pursuit, marriage, a bigger house, children, status, recognition, purpose, spiritual awakening. The object changes, but the structure remains identical. The mind moves from one form of incompleteness to another. This is why even extremely successful people often feel restless. They solved many problems, but the sense of lack never disappeared. Because the lack was never about the things, it was about the mind needing something to chase. So the addiction is not to love, not to money, not to success. The addiction is to the chase itself, and the chase requires a starting point. I am not enough yet. The moment that belief collapses, the entire psychological marketplace collapses with it. Self-help collapses, comparison collapses, ambition, as most people know it, collapses. The identity that was built on becoming someone begins to dissolve, and that is frightening for the mind. So it quickly rebuilds another form of incompleteness. A very strange paradox appears here. Humans say they want peace, but they unconsciously protect the very thing that destroys their peace. Because without it, they would not know who they are anymore. That is why seeing this clearly is rare. Not because it is complicated, but because the mind does not really want to see it. And if you are observing your own life honestly, especially after the reflections you've been doing about desire, dopamine, relationships, and the illusions of the mind, this insight becomes even sharper. The question quietly becomes, is the mind chasing fulfillment, or is it protecting the game of chasing itself? So listen, the mind survives by creating a sense of lack. If there is no lack, there is no chase. If there is no chase, the psychological self has very little to do. So the mind keeps whispering, you are not complete yet. Something is missing. Life will begin once you get that one thing. This one thing keeps changing: love, money, success, purpose, enlightenment. But the structure remains the same. The mind moves from one illusion of completion to the next, never questioning the original assumption that something was missing in the first place. When this is seen clearly, something subtle happens. You begin to realize that much of human striving is not really about fulfillment. It is about sustaining the game of becoming. And once the game is seen for what it is, the urgency behind it begins to dissolve. Not because you forced yourself to stop chasing, but because you finally understood what the chase will build upon.